Draw everyone back down. Focus in the room. Really interesting conversations with people where they're on their journeys, how far they've gone, things falling backwards. Do we need to throw everything out with, the new with the old? Those are great conversations. I love having conversations like that because we don't always know the answers. We see something that there's some trained down people asked last night. One of the nicest things about QA is we see things from startups up to very mature, large enterprise organisations have got massive architectures which are 20, 30 years old, and one of the things I find really fascinating is talking to different organisations about how they're going to do this, what they think the blockers are, and what they can achieve. And again, we come with titles, Cat and Phil have got really nice titles like containerisation with blah blah blah. I'm a bit more whimsical, and I wanted to build the culture, get the tools, win the day. Because it starts with the culture. It's to start with the culture for DevOps, for Agile to work. And I don't think you can separate DevOps from Agile, not very well. You can start making the journey more effective. If you are in a waterfall environment, just saying you can use it like Lean. Lean can take the waste out, so it actually takes the steps down, so your waterfall is more efficient in terms of what you're actually doing. But a lot of it is about the Agile and cultural changes. And that's what I want to talk about next. So I'll put these back in. Do this. So when we talk to our sales team, the rest of our stuff about this, and this is a common thing that I see about DevOps, and it's a webcomic, and it really gets the message across. Oh, resource and recruiter DevOps, please. Talking about the DevOps role, we've got the DevOps. We told DevOps to solve all my delivery problems. What do you mean you can't buy collaboration? Fine, I'll buy a DevOps product instead. And that helped the developers talk to ops. I just had some conversations with some of you over coffee where you know that is not the case. The tool can come in and it can sit in its own silo with its own team doing something different from the rest of you. That is not going to win. You've then still got your old operators doing their old things just faster. So, as I said, the theme for this, the theme for our session, better, faster, stronger, $6 million man. I wanted us all to wear Steve Austin red tracksuits for the Roadshow in a collaborative way. The rest of my team told me to bog off.
I drew the line at the beginning.
Yeah, that was it. We weren't going to run those. But, if you're of an age where you grew up watching this on a Saturday tea time, you're probably already hearing the theme song, you're hearing that in your mind. And you think of Steve Austin running at speed. He's going to be running at speed, and they did that by always using him in slow motion, doing his bionic thing. I want us to be Steve Austin really running at cyborg speed, but all too often I feel that we're Steve Austin and we are actually running in slow motion. And that happens. It's frustrating. One of the things that Adrian has to do with us as a team, he's not here right now, but he will always say that we're very good at managing our manager. We have built our trust and he trusts us to do what we do, but he is really an archetypical, now what I would call a servant leader within the environment. He backs us up and he supports us and he ensures that the business is not a blocker in terms of what we're trying to do if we haven't got the authority right now to do that. And sometimes it's frustrating. He will say small changes, slowly, incrementally, which we know is the answer, but we get frustrated. But why haven't we changed that today? Why did they say no? Why can't they see my vision? Because I didn't explain it well enough to them and I didn't take it away from being scary. So I had to step back, rethink, change. Not them, got it wrong. It was me, I didn't present it correctly. So I need to change it. And that's one of the things I want to think about. Because I want us to be, at the end of this, running Steve Austin fast, not Steve Austin slow. Jamaican sprint team, Olympics, 2012, London. And all people think speed is like this, the relay team, woo! And this for me is waterfall. No matter how fast your waterfall is, unfortunately, it's baton passing. It is baton passing. And in baton passing, you can win, but you get a lot of this. That's the Jamaican team. Anyone name them? We've got Usain Bolt at the end. The other three? Yes? No? Not so much. Because actually, the Jamaican team is all about Usain Bolt being a rock star, and the rest of them are just decoration. And that's not right, because actually it's not, they won that minute level because all 4 of them were in there. So back on the sport metaphor, especially keeping with cycling with my colleagues, this is the Australian sprint cycle team. I watched this event, it's fascinating. They all go off, they've got to act as blockers against other teams running, they drop out and they get to a certain position, but actually the only person, the way they win is by winning as a team. The Tour de France teams is exactly the same. Doesn't matter who comes over that line and wins, they did it because the team were there together and working together. So one of the questions that came up earlier on, Ben asked if you should have the ops person in the stand-ups and the ceremonials. Yeah, and your tester, and your PM, and your BA, they need to be part of the stand-up, the group, the organisation that get things going. And that means you've got to do things efficiently, in a time-boxed and sensitive way, and the importance of these ceremonies are actually pretty much as pivotally important as they get in terms of what happens. So when we do sort of things like DevOps and Agile, reskilling and training, a lot of people say we need to get them into the idea of doing the ceremonies, and the ceremony is the most important thing. We need to get into that habit because we want to talk about the sharing, the collaboration, and what we've done. So it's teamwork. It's always about teamwork. And if we step off together, we share that role and we share that responsibility, right from minute 1, we've got skin in the game. It was interesting that someone brought up change function. You have a change function. Someone who is responsible for doing change. I found that a little bit odd in some ways, because actually the idea of the ITIL change and risk reduction strategy becoming team, siloed, structured, change is my responsibility. If I'm not changing as per the rules of the business, then I'm not really doing my job very well. So we need a well-rounded web, IT, whatever professional you actually are. Agile demands multifaceted teams. It demands people who are able to utilize their time effectively. You don't ever want to be sitting there if there's work on the backlog to do and not being a productive member of the team. So if anyone's been there as a dev, the spec hasn't come in, I can't start work today, they're behind in the code, well that's our week. We need to get in and we need to be sharing. So we talked about the complexity of large systems a little bit earlier on. I had some conversations with Coffee with that earlier on, and we used to be just specialists. We had one thing we knew. And it's weird how things go full cycle, as we say, because specialism, when systems became very complex, having a DBA, having a front-end engineer, having a middleware engineer is sometimes necessary. They have got different skills. But one of the things I'd really push quite solidly on here, on the master's program we do, and all sorts of other things is not good enough. You need at least, if you've got that skill set, to have a broad awareness across the rest of what is happening. I am not a Linux expert. Always Phil, Cat's our Linux guru. Phil does PowerShell. I program everything in JavaScript because why do you need to use anything else? But if I'm working in Node or MongoDB or front-end design, I know that these guys also know enough JavaScript. If it really came to it, and I said, can you write a couple of functional requirements? Can you just set this up? Can you go and check these packages for me? We've got enough knowledge shared across the team, but the more simple tasks, the normal tasks, are something that anyone can pick up and do. And that's the benefit of actually having a generalist broad knowledge of understanding the entirety of the product, the process, and what we're doing. I don't even think it's not going to be T-shaped anymore. I think we need to be at least pie-shaped. Because in pie-shaped environment, I really feel that everyone needs to have a different part of specialization. The end of a good DevOps environment should hopefully mean that I am capable of managing at least part of that operational thing. Maybe it's not quite as deep. Maybe it's sort of a little bit of a wonky pie, but actually at that point I still have enough knowledge there now to support Kat on the operational side. Kat certainly has enough provision there to support me on the dev side. Then there's a mythical cone-shaped one. Cone-shaped developers, Adrian said he'd change this now because code's only got 4 in it, and you octopus-shaped ones, we can do everything. But wouldn't that be cool? If you've got 20 years of experience and you remember doing full-stack development, as Adrian said, I can do the UX analysis, I can do the front-end design, I can do the back-end, I can do the database, I can do some of the deploying in the cloud release. Not enough at the moment, actually, so that's my learning curve for next year, to get more of that into my skill set, because I know it's a problem. So we need to have multifaceted people who have got different skills, who are able, when it's necessary, to go outside their comfort zone. And that's not just technical, that can be other parts. Traditional roles talk to people who are about the project manager, the BA. Traditional roles that have grown up in the enterprise culture need to change. PMs and BAs have got amazing skills. A BA can talk to a customer and translate in a way that is really important. We had some of our colleagues from Northumbria University with us yesterday, and they were trying to get across to their comp sci students why it was important to have the soft skills as well. They're like, we don't need to talk that, we're not going to talk to customers. Of course you are. But the BA is a specialist to that. But sometimes a BA sits in a silo. Here's the requirement, bang, I'll check back in to make sure you're doing as you're told later on. They're not part of the team. Anyone doing behaviour-driven development? Yeah? Anyone else here with BDD, behaviour-driven development? Who's doing things like user stories for their Agile workflows? User stories describing the customer requirement, pretty much pseudo-English, really almost as a functional requirement. Behaviour-driven development, fundamentally, is almost, I can take that user story, drop it into the test engine, the programmer can write around that test harness using a tool like Cucumber, which sits on almost every tool level of the DevOps chain. And we're writing tests which are in human English that the customer can understand, the BA can understand, the developer can turn into your actual code. So if the BA is writing the user stories and wants to know that we're doing that, why isn't the BA also writing the Cucumber tests and being part of the testing team? When the PM is very good at managing the workflow, can they become the Scrum Master, coaching the team, thinking about the flow, helping them to optimize the size of tasks? Can the PM also take on a spur of knowledge into user experience? So they can go out and do the field research and testing. Silos are banned. Simple as that, hate them. Absolutely hate them. And if people need to adapt into this new, demanding, digital, non-stop world, you need to add strings to the bow, as they say. And that string to the bow means that you are of value at all times. You, of course, have your strength. You, of course, if you've got 20 years as a BA, you're going to be a kick-ass BA. You wouldn't be in the field if you were doing that. But there's the new bit. And that's what we found, because DevOps sort of often starts as a technology-led solution. It comes out from there. And then the rest of the business, because what we have found, what Phil and I are reaching out to now is actively siloing Stirpé across the other units within the organisation. Because our business analysts are going, what do we need to know about this? The PMs are asking that. The ITIL people are going, oh, but we've got ITIL and we've got a change team. How's that going to work? You've got a change team. It's not. Because everyone's the change team, everyone's the testing team, everyone's the security team, and you have your leaders and your specialists who can fill that up. They have the depth of knowledge, but we all have to pick part of that responsibility up. That is the change that is coming. That is the organisations who have adopted and are on that journey more successfully, who have done that. And that comes with cultural, conversational difficulties to have. I'm not going to say it's easy. It's not. Because a lot of those sort of structured teams are quite silent. You've got people there who are resistant, reluctant to change. They don't see the benefits you're bringing in. And there are different ways that this change then happens. But what stops people from getting there? These are all reasons that I have been given. It's too complicated. I can't do testing. I can't do coding. It's too complicated. Yesterday we were in Glasgow, two of our sales team. Don't do any coding. At the end of it, go, I said, you guys have inspired me so much, I want to go off and do coding. He said, well, we've got a set of new videos on this learn to code thing. Do you want to do it? You want to test it for us? Absolutely. And when people who are scared are now going to go and do and build websites, so I can put my feet up next year and not teach that course, and sales team will do it instead. Or break it. We're going to break it. Don't care. You are going to break it. Sorry, we're doing complicated new things. You're going to break it. As a developer, I break things all the time. All the time. It just happens because what I'm often doing is working in cutting edge stuff, things which there are not a definite answer for. I'm going to try something that didn't work, broke it. Can I switch it back pretty quickly? If I can do that, then actually my breakage, no one will know. It's all right. It's all the code, man. Kat and I went to a WinOps conference a while ago. How many people are primarily Windows-based in their teams, their organisations at the moment? Yeah? About half of you. Microsoft is starting to do some crazy things. How many of you are using things like PowerShell regularly? About half of that half. Learn PowerShell. Learn PowerShell. Honestly, if you're in the Windows environment, you're going to have to code. If you don't want to code, tough luck. Developers run the world now. We're in charge. That's the end of the matter. The devs and the coding, everyone's doing part of it. And there will not be a role in IT over the next few years that does not involve some sort of programming. My colleague Richard, actually, 2 conferences up from here, he's teaching advanced Excel function writing. And that's coding, that's programming. But in that sort of environment there, what you're doing is actually talking about people writing VBA scripts, automation, using the recorder, going in, changing things. Everyone's writing code. So everyone will need to write code. What's like GitHub? What's this shared stuff? Open source is at the heart of what we're talking about. The enterprise world of Microsoft end-to-end, of Java and Oracle end-to-end, it's changing. And again, I'm not saying throw out your real estate, get rid of everything, but we're in the world of what I call Frankenstein applications, where you have lots of little bits of other things stitched together that turn you into a really effective tool. Lots of microservices and micro frameworks that actually build up the whole. And this is great. Anyone using Git or GitHub repositories in their organizations? There's a version control and management strategy. But you can go out there and you can find people who've done fantastic, fantastic solutions to problems. And you don't have to write it from scratch. You can do it. Phil and Kat, when they're doing their things later on, they will use recipes and they will use containers that have been by other people, by the vendors, which actually means that within minutes, Kat can have Linux machines up and running. She asked me on Tuesday, she said, call that an operating system. I thought, ooh, Solaris. I haven't thought about Solaris for a while. Checked it, and there's an official Solaris container, it's there. I checked after that to see if there was a official join node container. There is. Ooh, it's really exciting, because I can do that now. And I can spin up my node service, and I can put all my dependencies into my package, and I can build that multiple servers in minutes. So open source, sharing, frameworks, collaboration, not just within your own organization, but beyond. In open source, huge amounts of things are out there. Again, Kat and I argue regularly about JavaScript and why it's the best programming language, and she says it's not, and I know she's wrong, because JavaScript is the only thing you actually need to know. And one of the reasons I love it, because everything's non-compiled. I can see it inside it. Go, no, it's non-compiled. I said, it is compiled because the runtime to compile code later on. I don't. It is all compiled, but actually I love JavaScript because I can go out and do things like Node, and I can go and get a library, and I can look inside it, and I can see exactly what's happening in it. And if I like it, I can use it out of the box. If not, I can change it. What I know is I can write a RESTful server running on Node, and I can do that in 5 minutes. Whiz bang, done. Down the pump. Because actually that speed of velocity of not having to reinvent the wheel each time, within projects or not, is part of working in this new world. That's the one that drives me nuts. It's not my responsibility. Why not? Whose is it? Again, we're not very good at that. My responsibility. Well, whose is it? Can't change that, but we can. What we did when we needed to bring this in and we realised it was necessary in QA, there are different ways it can happen, the cultural change, from the top, from the bottom. We do what is referred to as guerrilla change. Not big hairy apes, sometimes you do feel that might be necessary, but we go around, we find people who are like-minded, we formed a secret society of de-siloers. We're not really very secret, we sat in the coffee areas and told people what we were doing. But in that scenario, we found like-minded people and we shared. We shared across the boundaries of business. Because they go, we like the idea of that. Because we don't know all. We really don't. And our colleague Laura, who's a really talented Scrum Master, has now fed back in, and she started talking about the BAs, about, oh, how does that fit in and change the BA role? How's that going to change the ITIL sort of stuff? I don't know exactly the depth to the knowledge level of why it's going to change ITIL. I can tell you what the broad problem is. You're the ITIL expert. I'll support you. You get on with it. But the idea of throwing over the wall and saying, worked in dev is done. Worked in dev doesn't exist. Okay? Works on my machine. There's memes, there's that one of a kid smiling looking at the fire, go, worked in dev, doesn't work in production, shrugging shoulders, and it's sort of, that's not good enough because it's our product.
Can I just chip in with two things? Yeah. So, part of the, one thing that David was talking about there was about the, is it top down or bottom up? Because this question actually came up twice this week already about the culture. And is it driven from the top, or is it driven from the bottom, for want of a better term? And where it works, where we've seen it work, and it works here, is where it's been driven from the bottom, but it's been enabled and supported from the top. Because if a large company said, everyone, so we're doing DevOps, it's the next big thing, and make it so, make that happen. If the CEO, if our CEO, William McPherson, said, guys, I've heard this thing called DevOps, crack on, that just wouldn't have happened. But there were enough of us at our level say we want to make things happen. We want to achieve this. At the moment, there are these silos, there are these organisational barriers, there are different things aren't happening. And we have the support and the trust of Adrian, who is our boss, and he knows what we want to achieve, he knows we've got the skills to do it, he knows there are these barriers, so just get on with it. And I'll back you up, and if you fail, come back and tell me. It would rather that we got things done, had the failures reported back and fixed them, rather than not get things done for fear of the failure in the first place. And then you just mentioned Laura. I've been aware for a while with my Agile hat on, there have been a number of questions that have come up over perhaps the past 6 months. What about ITIL and Agile? What about ITIL and Agile? What about... And I've noticed people go, yeah, that's the ITIL guys. Or the ITIL guys, oh yeah, that's the Agile guys. And that got on and on and on and on. Until there came a point where we sat down and said, well, is there a thorn? Is there a thorn that just keeps recurring? What about the ITIL and Agile? So why don't we take an ITIL person and we take an Agile person, who'd have thought, and we put them in a room, we get some donuts, and let's just chat about it. And that is now happening. Part of that was driven because we had enough questions from customers that, well, they pass each other in the corridor. We've got ITIL next door but 2 running today, and we've got Agile down low. And morning, afternoon, have a good weekend. And they talk all the time, but they don't collaborate on a thing, and now we're beginning to collaborate on a thing. And so there's this growing band of, what are we?
The secret society.
The secret society that everyone knows about. But we're getting stuff done, it's really exciting.
Because you will find like-minded people in your organisation. You know it's a problem, they know it's a problem. You need trust. Trust is the most important thing. If you're there, and again, someone was saying that, I can't see it now, but you were saying about the fact that you want to motivate your team, you want that trust and that continuous improvement, and that's absolutely fantastic because you need to trust your people. If you don't trust your people, why are they working for you? Because actually you should trust them to do their job. You hire them to do their job. Those experts, given the freedom to transform, to use their skills, to have more authority than they think they've got, which is what Adrian says to me and Phil sometimes. We're new in our head world. We've got made heads of things this year because we've done all this and we've done this, and it was our reward for doing it is we get to try and transform the business. Nice reward. But that reward to us is, he said, you have got more authority than you think you have. So he's right. And we're now going to do a lot more than we used to do. I've had this slide for a couple of years because when I used to talk about user experience and front-end design and responsive, it was this mythical idea of someone who could be a developer, a designer, and could do the UX together. On this blog, they refer to it as the golden unicorn. There aren't many people who can do this golden unicorn. Wrong. Almost anyone now working in design is a UX person. Anyone who's doing development is picking up the responsive design skills necessary to actually build a modular or usable website. And you can see the benefits of that. So there's like programming stuff now in front-end design, things like SAS and OS. The UX feedback loop of getting lots of experience really quickly. So the golden unicorn has come to pass, and that could be ITIL and Agile. That could be DevOps. That could be tester and programming. That could be PM and tester. We need to be the unicorn. My aim for you to go home today, to go back and put your hand up and go, I'm a golden unicorn. Tomorrow morning, into your office and go, I'm a golden unicorn. Give me a golden unicorn.
Don't say it out loud though.
All right.
Or maybe not even do that either.
But in your mind, from today, you are golden unicorns. Okay? That's what we want to be. We want to be multiple. There's another version that says, be Batman. Whatever you want to be, just be awesome. Don't get yourself defined in the box. Break it down. Because it is the culture. Like Apple, like Steve Jobs or not, this is something that Steve Jobs said, and I have as a really important quote for me. It's not the tools you have faith in, they're just tools. They work, they don't. It's people who have faith in them or not. We have tried loads of different tools. We've tried some that have stuck, we've some that haven't. We've made an investment, didn't work, chuck it out. Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to do Puppet. Well, Puppet's not really what we want to use. We want to Chef. Oh, we've bought Puppet licenses now, you can't use Chef. You've used Puppet for certain things, didn't work for you, get Chef. You've gone in a lot of VM investment, got loads of VMware, you're looking at containerization now. What does that mean about VMware real estate? Nothing, you can keep it. You can just do that on the side. It's another thing you can do. The reason we need to work in this more agile and DevOps-centric way is to sort of think about how organizations go. Is anyone from a startup? Is anyone from a sort of startup-y unit within their business. A lot of digital ones try to do this. A lot of people from mature-ish organizations, yeah? Mature-ish organizations, that's where you are. This is the startup methodology. We've got a product, man. I've got a great idea. Shall we develop it? Cool. Shall we deploy it? Awesome. That didn't work. Let's try it again. We've improved. Woohoo! Now we're WhatsApp. Or didn't work. Tell you what, let's fold the company and go do something else. Fantastic. We've got a digital hub near our London office. The other side from us, 50 companies working there. When you say 50 companies, they share lots of little desks. The companies are offering 3 people. They all own stock. They don't really have money. They don't own a server because it's all on the cloud. They have a MacBook because cool people have MacBooks. And the MacBook there, which is cool, because that's just where, ding, so Apple is telling me that I told it was cool and it approves. But Apple is sort of telling us there, you know, that approach is we can make that change. And actually, they are agile because of scale. They're agile because they can say, we're going to come in and we're going to agile it. Because they are greenfield companies, nothing in front of them. You've got people here today from banks, from large organizations, you've got people from mature civil service areas, big firms. If you're the guy who is responsible for software engineering practices at Volkswagen today, you might have a better idea about this is going to work. But let's see if this feels familiar. You don't have to read all the words here. Have a great idea. Debate it. Get it signed off. Scope out the requirements. Develop it. Test it. Fix it. Schedule the release. Raise some paperwork. Get the paperwork fixed itself. Test it. Fix it. Deploy it. Fix it.
You've forgotten the 14 stages of approval.
Each one of these is probably its own little flowchart, and we know that that is the case, and that is where blockage occurs, because we do complex things in big organisations with a lot of risk attached to them. You do not want to be the man who sinks Volkswagen. You do not want to be the person who failed to do the security testing in TK Maxx. Those are big organisations and they have a lot of risk attached to it. And a lot of the control that comes to management is about risk reduction. And risk reduction is still a massive importance part of this, which is about getting the idea of risk as a shared responsibility earlier into the way we think about it. Reclaim failure. If there's one thing I can get you to take away today, other than to be golden unicorns, it is to reclaim failure. To fail is normal. If you fail fast, if you fail often, and you will, and you fail forward, so you learn from your mistake, we've got a much better way of getting better quality in. Continuous improvement, continuous learning.
Where do you say failure? I mean, you know, if you put code live and it fails, are you talking about that failure at that point in time? Because
it can be you've got the product wrong, you've misunderstood the requirement, you've not really understood if technically what you want to do is possible.
Just so that if we fail, we might fail to pay, you know, 3 million people.
That's the thing. But obviously, by building tests and by making changes in a more incremental way, you will fail. But you can fail and understood in a much more manageable way, where you can ramp up and ramp back, and you can roll back and you can roll forward because you're doing small changes. I was talking to people yesterday, and they have a change release every 3 months. So what they do is in that 3 months, they get as much as they can in that 3 months. And hopefully it's all going to be working at production. If not, we're going to have to roll back and you have to wait another 3 months. Or actually, if I can go to production every 19 seconds, if I go to production once a week, if I can have a test environment that actually simulates my live server, I can test and I can fail, and I can fail without going down the company, but I can do it earlier. So change needs to be smaller. If change is smaller, we can fail because the fail is less catastrophic. Now, I'm making jokes about Volkswagen, but that is a catastrophic failure. Governance or leadership of ownership is a catastrophic failure that will, you know, if it was almost any other car company, that might have sunk them, completely sunk them in terms of what they've done. So the failure needs to be controllable and manageable. When you've got, you've got a lot of people here from civil service today. If you fail, then you can have a daily mail knocking on your door going, you failed. But actually, a lot of the time, it's starting to happen in government digital services. That's not the case. Oh, the car tax discs is going to be a terrible problem. We won't manage them alone. Yeah, that's fine. What are the problems? All that. And that change happens. But we do that by actually sharing and understanding the risk more. So risk shouldn't just be a management thing. I can't do that, too risky. How do we reduce the risk?
Can I just chip in once again? And part of this is an agile thing, part of this is an automation thing, so all of that is a DevOps thing. But in agile, we're looking for short iterations, and we are iterating. And so rather than in the waterfall fashion, you design the thing, it's going to be 18 months before this thing ships. So it's going to be 18 months before you know a thing works or not. And so it's going to be 18 months when you may have to go back. What are you going to go back to? Whereas in the agile way, you'll look at the things that are going to give you the most value early on in your first sprint, deploy, ship, then you're working on the next one. But provided everything's automated from the tests to the build to the packaging, if that's automated and you have everything in code that you can roll back. So if you're familiar with blue-green testing, is that a term you're familiar with? So we have the blue that's a current and the green is a shiny new one. Provided you've automated the process of the test and the build and the package and the deploy. And if you are blue-greening, so you've got part of the fleet is the current stable version and part of the fleet is the new shiny, fingers crossed, let's hope it works version, then if you've got a load balancer sending 98% of the traffic to the blue and he's sending some of the live traffic to the green, and then in comes Cat because she's been there all along doing the monitoring bit. Provided you've got your metrics right and you know what you're looking for the performance drop or the spike or the errors, that any moment you detect something, you can just crank that dial back to 100 and 0 and everything's still the blue. But if you have a period of we're doing okay with 2% of them green, let's go to 4, let's go to 6, let's go to 8, let's go to 50. At any point you can just roll straight back and still be at the previous version. But all those things are enabled by automation. They're all enabled by the shorter sprints. Sound of evangelical, so I'll wind it back a bit.
But I say, if your change manager and your tester or with the dev and the ops person, that kind of release, and we're all monitoring it, you can pat the dev on the back, or you can say, we've got a problem, that has failed, dev got it, we'll put, as you say, ramp it back, undo the code if we need to, find out what we need to change, gather the data. It becomes a much more velocity-driven, agile way of doing things. You don't have to go through this test to destruction before you can put it out there. Of course, we're still going to test, but once it's normal, that test can be automated, that production can be automated. The more we reduce sort of the variance, because variance is where the danger is, the better it is. We summed it up, but here's the quote. Failed, not failed, just found 10,000 ways it won't work. That's the basis of good science. You know, we fail a lot. We are computer scientists or computer scientists in the room, and that's the bulk of what we're doing. The best breakthroughs I've ever had in my life as a developer is when I've gone hideously wrong. Because when I've gone hideously wrong, I've often misunderstood a principle or a concept, and I step back and rethink it, get it right. Used to be the case that you'd save another version in another folder, or you'd comment lots of things and comment lots of stuff out. What I'll just do now is I'll push back on my Git hierarchy to where I made my last good piece of code and rethink what I'm doing. And in the meantime, I'm not breaking the production environment, but I'm still trying to learn and engage and bring value to it. So we want to try and improve it, because as Phil was saying, what we want is have a great idea, let's get the tester in day one. Go testers. The tester is going to write the test cases, because the tester knows what we're looking for success. They've got the best idea of the metrics. And that could be the change management person. That could be a security person. Get them in, understand what they need from you. Of course you're still going to use their expertise, but let's get it in. Develop it, test it, integrate it, deploy it, monitor it, obtain feedback. How do I obtain feedback? From internal customers, from going out to ask what the next feature is. I've got a lot of products now with a little smiley face on them. That smiley face icon is a digital feedback button. You push the button and it sends a metric. I go, I like your code. On Git, you can put comment, you can put polls, you can put fixes, you can elaborate in terms of what you're doing. Because actually you have problems like this. This is what the waterfall is. The analysis, design, the code, the test, and they're often seen as separate functions. You move from one to another. But you can use Lean to reduce it, so you're a faster waterfall. But those are still silos. So for DevOps to work in its best way, you have to start thinking about this differently. It's about the sprint going off together. Everything in Agile is time boxed. Time is important. So the ceremonials at the start of the day, standard, 15 minutes, time boxed. The retrospective at the end of the sprint, 30 minutes, time boxed. The show and tell, an hour. Whatever you need to do, but time box it and identify it. It's time matters. PM's a bit of time. PMs can manage that in a much more organic way, actually, in terms of what we're doing. You break the product down into the features. You start thinking about how I'm going to do it. Anyone use t-shirt sizing? Yeah? T-shirt sizing is a really simple way. You look at the feature that's there and given to you by the BA, who's there in front of the whiteboard with you at the time, and we start trying to analyse as a team what the risk and the complexity of the project is. Is it a small, medium, large, or extra large? Define what a small looks like. An hour of work, 2 hours of work, medium, maybe a day's work. And you start looking at that and you say, that's going to be a medium. Best guess, new, we think it looks like this, we think it's going to be a medium. We identify how long it's going to work, we identify who's going to do that, go. Following day, you have a stand-up. What went well, what went badly, what were my blockers? If you haven't finished your task because we estimated incorrectly, or it's simpler than we thought, so we've got more time, look at the backlog, start that. That was a very similar task, that's a medium, maybe that's actually a small. Because actually by thinking and communicating more quickly and more effectively, you can start estimating better. And by estimating better, we can make changes more effectively, we can manage the time and resources better. Last me for break. When should we use Agile? Does it always work? Not always. If you've got a mature monolithic system that's sitting there for 15 years just chugging along, telling that team now they're Agile isn't going to work, but nor is it going to work with your code base. Okay? Because we sort of start like this. You have like knowledge spikes where the technology is unknown and the requirements are a bit unknown. So when one of us picks up a new tool to start with, Phil will tell you his horror stories from Puppet later on. Puppet was an absolute nightmare for Phil. Phil's one of the smartest people I know, and it broke him. We got there.
That's to start with.
But he learned that, and because he learned that, he's able to tell lots of other people, don't do that, because I learned not to do that. And that happens because we teach, but it happens in a stand-up, you don't want to do that. Because again, on another environment, I do web. Responsive web pages, I'll knock you out in 15 minutes, no problem. Because Phil needed to have responsive web pages for a course. He said, how should I write this? What framework should I use? I said, well, actually, I've got some courses, pages for my course, which are, here's a template, here's a landing page, here's a form page, all responsive, we've got QA logos and colours on. Why don't you use those? Okay. That'll save Phil days of working, looking at a framework you didn't need to work with. I have already had the notes for that, and that is now on a Git repo within the business, so anyone using a web development course can use that same template for the same journey that me and Phil went on to not waste that time. Because what we do is hard, and what we're doing here with the rapid change, new tools, new ways of thinking is hard. So if things are hard, we want to get feedback very, very quickly from ourselves, from our teams, from everyone. We are all in this together when we're doing this. As I said, if I'm doing an Agile course, if I'm going to Scrum, we're in front of the whiteboard, don't sit around tables, don't do the Alan Sugar apprentice thing, sit at the other end of the table from your team, get in front of the whiteboard. Can't watch the apprentice anymore because I think, what a dinosaur sitting there doing that and shouting at people and telling them they failed. It just makes me cross, because that's not good business. It's not good communication or teamwork or collaboration. Values, principles, practices, rules. The size matter. I'm not saying there ain't no rules, or maybe there ain't, but the rules here are that actually rules and processes are less important than the aims of the project in Agile. Did the process work last time? Yeah. Did it work this time? No. What do we need to change? This. Great. Let's do it. Who needs to sign that off? The change person. Get them at the stand-up. When Phil and I got on new titles, they made this for us. Whoops and Sundance. Rules or ain't no rules. But we were empowered to go six-gun shooting across the company and start making changes. And there are rules. Of course there are rules. Because what Phil and I do is say, we've done this. This worked for us. And then we pass that to our, for instance, our head of business analysts. And they go, I like that, but I don't like all of it. So I'm going to use that bit. And I'm going to change it in this way. Fantastic. We've converted you to thinking in an agile and a reproducible way, but you've taken what works for you and put it into your system. Also, that's one of Phil's favourite photos. Working in an agile way and having this de-siloing structure means we create a better transparency. Transparency means every day we are seeing who did what went well, what's a problem. And if it's a problem, it's visible, we jump on it, we swarm it. And that comes back to that t-shirt. The dev needs their back cover, they need some help, they need some time to do that. Does anyone else know how we can do that? Can you start researching this, we're getting this solved? The ops person's got an emergency, the system's down. Hey, get the dev team in here to help us. We need to spin up these servers, run the scripts, debug that for me. inspection. Because we are looking for variance, variance is where failure comes from. Once we've done what is normal, once we've accepted what it is, take variance out. Chef recipes are an example of that. Once Phil has figured out the script to automate all the things,
Lol.
he will take that out and you'll have a script that does that, because that has been done, it has been tested, we have understood it, we can test the automation, we can make sure the drift doesn't occur, and if it does, we can solve it. We adapt, as I was saying. My colleague Marie, who's our head of business analyst stuff, she's got, I like part of this, I don't like all of it, I'm going to use that. Use what works for you. Because if you use Agile and DevOps as a rule book, you've got it wrong. It's a way of thinking and working. Does anyone remember extreme programming? You could tell it came from the 90s because it had extreme in the front of it, so the extreme. And extreme programming is really at the heart of the DevOps idea. It was a really good idea, one of the earliest Agile ways of working, because Agile is a lot of different things, but the pair programming is always one of the things that strikes me here. Pair programming is where you have someone who's a more knowledgeable programmer with a more junior programmer to share skills. Why is that a programmer? Why am I, with 20 years of dev experience, not sitting with the ops guy who's trying to do infrastructure as code for the first time? Don't write your for loop like that, you're going to have a problem. If you do that, you've got a security vulnerability. Where's your tester who knows testing? You know, testers used to be the bane of our life. At the end of the line, get the tester sitting down to you, share a coffee in front of the whiteboard. I think we should need to do this as the test. I think that's what we want to do. That's where I think the problem's going to come out. Collaborate, share. Because actually, no one needs to be idle when we're doing this, because this is the move we're going for, continuous integration. Don't pass it along in handoffs. Share, 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 and push this across. So continuous integration is that when I, as a developer, write my basic code, we know that we can get it in the mythical Amazon 19 seconds. You're not going to be...
That's a nice line.
You're not going to do 19 seconds. No matter how many things you automate. The LOL thing was actually built off Phil. That's what he does. But you know, the 19 seconds is not what we're going to do. But however, Facebook, every 2 weeks, every 2-week sprint, every 2 weeks they push a new version of the Facebook app on iOS, on mobile apps, or Android to production. It's in there too. We do this every 2 weeks. Sometimes there's loads of changes, sometimes there's 1 or 2. Every 2 weeks, that's our sprint, that's our time box, there's our task, let's get on with it, let's get it done. 2 weeks, you get a new version of the product. Can we get that velocity? Can we get product out faster? But it's not just Agile. DevOps, Agile is a very important part of it. I don't think you think of Agile without Lean. Scrum especially has got Lean woven into it, but sometimes doesn't say it as cleanly as it needs to be. And if you can't be Agile, if you haven't got one of those monolithic things, you can still be Lean. Lean is a manufacturing practice, readaptive software engineering. You have waste. These are the 7 types of waste. The Rolls Royce, extra processes. I know what the customer wants. They want heated thing. Did they? Did they ask for it? Did they pay for it? Why have you spent your time doing that? I need to refactor the code. That wasn't in the original process. Put it on the backlog. If you get a spare 2 hours, go back and refactor it, because it's working at the moment. It doesn't need refactoring. It can go maybe into the next sprint, or we can pull it from the backlog when we've got time. Handoffs and defects. Defects. You imagine handing off to the testing team, promise you code, it's going to come back to you, took them a week to test, and take another 2 weeks to solve it. Why wasn't the testing harness better? Why wasn't the test result earlier? Stop that waste. Let's take a think of those. You'll almost undoubtedly think about something in your own organization that's doing that. You need to break them down. Phil's Mr. Agile, I'm Mr. Lean, like we're Mr. Lean, in terms of what we do. But Lean really matters to me because Kanban allows you to start visualizing flow of tasks. This is a simple Kanban board. I have not hosted a meeting with a formal agenda for some time. I use technical Lean coffee. You ever come across it, Lean coffee? You turn up with a load of post-it notes. No agenda, leaderless. You stand up and you say, right, write down things you want to talk about, put them all in the middle. Everyone gets to vote on the priorities of what's most important for them to talk about. It's time box it. So every 5 minutes we simply go, do I want to carry on talking? Are we done? Not quite sure? And we move it across the Kanban board from to do, in progress, done. It works brilliantly because what it means is the lowest person, the highest person, you're not coming in with the agenda, they'll be in there, the agenda meeting, in comes the boss, drops the agenda down, talks about everything, what they want to do. What do you want to talk about? Is in any other business? Oh, we haven't really got time for any other business. We have to drop that. So sorry, we'll do that next time. No. I don't know with my team when I host a 2 weekly, every 2 weeks you have a thing, and I say, what are the blockers? I don't put an agenda, so what are the blockers? What do we need to do? Tell me where we are. This is what I need to tell you. Done. Don't put agendas together. Entitled. The aim of Kanban is to make troubles come to the service and link them to a Kaizen activity. What's it called, Japanese word? Kaizen is to improve, to continuously improve, as well as to continuously develop. The Kaizen idea is, again, 1950s engineering principles. If it's visualized here on a board, nowhere to hide. If you're asking people every day what they're doing, there's no way to hide. I hope they're not going to hide. Anyway, but the trust and the flow and the blockages become very visible very quickly. By doing this regular communication, we make things faster. New information, changing priorities. Because the project plan, let's be honest, in all reality, the original Gantt chart that's put in front of you as project plan is a work of fiction. We all know that because it's not going to survive in the real world. When the change comes in, the ops team have got to go and do something else. So we need something that's more flexible and fluid based upon time blocks, understood requirements, but we need enough slack to put new things in. The meter is really important. Again, I've talked to some of you guys earlier about it. You know, sometimes other things become more important. In the organisation where you can do this best, nothing is more important than the stand-up. If you, it's a real, the house is on fire moment, send someone else in. Someone should be there. If they can't do it, document it and get a feedback with them later in the day. For goodness sake, make sure they're next day. They're always having a problem at 9 AM and they can't make the stand-up. You probably need to swarm around that problem because they're not able to get to the stand-up. Improve collaboratively. The beautiful thing about stand-up and not being around the board, and I've seen this happen in civil service environments where you have significantly senior civil servants who talk to ministers and apprentices in the same stand-up around the same board communicating. And I've seen an apprentice tell the person, that's not the best way of, you know, a senior person, that's not the best way of writing that code. Are you in an environment that can do that? Are you in an environment you can just knock on the CEO's office and say, I don't think we're doing this the right way? If you do, are they behind a desk? Why aren't they down there sharing, communicating at this present moment in time? Everyone examines the work in the same way, so code reviews and walkthroughs and show and tell are done in a collaborative environment. You create a better community of trust. Encourage openness. I put my neck on a couple of years ago and said we need to do Apple training. We need to have MacBooks, we need this, we need that. Significant capital expenditure. The MacBooks were coming into the office, being set up by us for the first time, the Apple trainers, the devs, and people going to do the management and the operational system stuff, and then it's like Christmas opening 16 iMacs and iPads and iPods, and woo, fantastic. And our CEO, hadn't been with the company that long actually, William, our CEO said, oh, he's 2 doors down, you've got to be quiet. Quiet? I walked 2 doors down, up at the door. So have you met the Apple team? Do you want to come and see us and have a chat and we'll explain what we're doing? And he was delighted to do it. And I've always found that is the case with our leadership, is we've got the ability to encourage openness and real, frank communication with us. We have a principal technologist in there every couple of months, and sometimes the communication can be very frank, but actually it is respected. Because if we're telling them it's a problem, it is actually a problem. And if they say we can't change that, they tell us why they can't change it. Not you come in and say, I've got a great idea, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing it because it's really important. But we want freedom of expression, patient and quiet folks. And that's one of the nice ideas about lean coffee and stand-ups, is everyone has to provide something. And as they realise their input is valued, and it is not a hierarchical organisation or too hierarchical, they're not going to get slapped down and become more communicative. The culture starts changing. The barriers and the misconceptions start coming down. Use feedback in a negative or nefarious way. Again, that's nothing great PM can do. They can work in, especially if you're using like the DSDM model for Agile, they can work as like a scrum master to ensure the behaviour is done well. Someone's writing feedback like your code sucks. That is not good feedback. There's nothing valuable there. If the feedback coming through is we don't like that, we could have done this better. Did we use the feedback? Was it something we adopted? Next time around we know the feedback like that isn't necessary. Let's change the way we're working. Don't be impatient. You're going to get cross. You are going to have issues when you try to do this sort of change. Step outside, take 5 minutes of communication, find someone who can work with you to help you break down the barrier, because you sometimes do meet a loggerhead, heads bashed together. Visualize what you do. A measurement system helps make the software product more visible, and that's what a Kanban board does. Okay, Kanban boards are about tasks in flow. Every feature that we need to do within this sprint is agreed on, it's in the backlog. Someone picks it up. Is it a knowledge sprint? They don't have to look like this, by the way. They can look at whatever words you want to do. Research, implement, validate, test, release. If there is a flow like that, even in a waterfall model, you can use it to validate work in progress and see what's going on. And this is a difficult one for leaders very often because you measure success by how productive members of staff are being. If you focus on driving utilization up, things will slow down. People need slack because when the emergency happens, every single moment of every single day has been done, then there is no moment to deal with things. The backlog, the work in progress of what we want to do, we'll have our prioritization, we'll have the things that are most important, we'll have our Moscow-type must and shoulds. If we can get through to those lovely, would it be nice to have features during this sprint, peace all round. If not, all right, we still got the core product out, so let's do that more effectively. But you need to have slack. And that comes again with the trust and the openness. I trust a software engineer, I trust a trainer to do whatever they need to do. If there's a problem, they will come and tell me, so we can react accordingly. So, paper-based Kanban, you can get online ones as well. It's an example of how messy and scruffy they get, but it's a great visualization of flow. Use colour to say that the different topics or different sizes have a little icon, which is your task, and you put it on your bit in flow so people can clearly see who it is. Great fun choosing your icon. On this Kanban, they're all in the middle. So there's a few things. This is probably the start of the day. Start of a day when no one's been assigned. If anyone's in the middle, and it's a live day, middle of the day, two things better be the case. They better be ill, or they better be dead. Because if they're not, why is their icon not on there? I don't do that, I'm a tester. You can do something. Sit with them, work with them, do something. Because what we're doing is we've got our time box, we know what we can do, we're thinking about the complexity of tasks, we set up our aspirations, we prioritise through Moscow, and if we emphasise the flow, we focus on the queue rather than the timeline. If something is blocking the queue, we've got to get that blockage out of the way. We've got to assign more resource, more people, change what we're looking at, we've got to get that block. We don't want to just keep pulling things out of this. Anyone see that picture of the 50 lines of traffic in China and this huge traffic jam? That is not what we want, especially if they're driving Volkswagen cars. So we want to make this better, and we do that by understanding the flow in terms of the tasks and activities. By looking at what went well, looking at what isn't going well, and kaizening the heck out of it. Good change, continuous improvement. What did we do well? And I said a stand-up and a retrospective. What went good, what went bad, what went all right. I don't like all right, actually. Anyone been to a restaurant recently? To a restaurant, you say, oh, was that a good restaurant? You enjoy it? It's all right. I don't go to restaurants that are all right. I go to restaurants that are fantastic. I want code that is fantastic. If it was a blocker, if it's all right, well, those are less important to solve than the negs. The negs are going to go first. But if we then got time to improve your rights, then we're continually improving and sharing and getting better. Anyone use value stream maps? I love value stream maps. They're my favourite thing at the moment. The value stream maps are looking in that retrospective of what work we did, what was of value to the business. So in this example, this is a first line support, it's reporting a bug up and getting it fixed. A request comes into the first line support and they email the supervisor to go on to the next step in the flow. That takes 5 minutes of real work. We identify that there are 2 hours of waste. What might cause that waste? From going from the email supervisor to the technical lead to get this going. What's the problem? Should we think of that?
Thinking about the supervisor to get around to the email.
Yeah. What if I can go over to Phil, Phil, mate, this code you wrote, in production we've got a problem. Phil goes, all right, I'll tell you what, I'm going to talk to Kat, we'll spin up a Docker container and we'll check that code against the production environment. You're right, there's a bug, let's fix it. Why does the supervisor need to get involved? Is this a house on fire problem or is this a standard problem? If it's a standard problem, trust your team. If it's a house on fire problem, yeah, get your supervisor. Don't email them and go, oh, I've emailed them, I've done my job. Get over them and go, hey, supervisor, boss, house is on fire. It's important that a process is being adopted, they're adapted. Evolved experimentally. By looking at what we did there, you look at where the waste is. You identify the waste, you think about good techniques to break the waste down. Once we've broken the waste out, we get a faster flow, more value. because that is an inefficient, there's 325 minutes of waste in what is a frontline bug support problem. Not good enough. And actually, you see the organisations are very good at this. If anyone's ever made a complaint to your company on Twitter, they come back to you in 2 or 3 minutes, those guys are good. They're watching for every complaint and making sure that doesn't turn into a Twitter storm. It takes a couple of days, maybe they don't come back, those guys do not have great people there, there's a blockage, there's a problem, what do we do about it, don't we? Waste is bad. Break it down. And implement the feedback loop, the retrospective, the show and tell, why we did things, why we couldn't do everything you want to do. Most of us are happy that we get talked down to way too much by a lot of people in organisations. Most of us are happy to really be told why something cannot happen, or why something was done in this way, and not the way you really wanted it to do. Okay, got it, understood. Thank you for treating me like a grown-up. Ignoring feedback merely means that the system will eventually experience a massive, unpleasant surprise than a small, unpleasant surprise. You will fail, things will go wrong, you do need to improve, you didn't do it perfectly the first time. Take it on board, get it done. That's then when we start thinking what tools we're using. Tools in DevOps do things. We might automate, we might orchestrate, we might do configuration management, testing, monitoring, integration, delivery. We'll all have our favourite tools. As a front-end JavaScript developer, or end-to-end full-stack JavaScript developer, I use Gulp and Grunt for my CI and CD. Cat like Jenkins uses a lot of Java stuff. But don't matter, just tools. The point is, when I write this code and I push it in production, I pass the test, it's been optimized, it's been minimized, actually efficiently done and pushed to production, load's gone up, server goes up. Because actually, the Game of Thrones analogy that Kat told you, one of my favourite ones, because actually episode 1, season 4, HBO Go, premium for this, crashed. Problem. What should have happened at episode 2? Hopefully, all those people who paid for that premium product got to watch Game of Thrones streaming live. No. In episode 2, crash. Demand was too high then. Public, media storm, weak, customers unhappy, and you couldn't solve it by week 2. It should have been everything down. For the most important thing that's our product, we've got to get that solved. Netflix have rogue servers that go through their framework and they kill other servers. They destroy other servers. They're so important to them that that customer doesn't have that. They actually tamper with their own load balancing solutions in an automated, intelligent, agent-driven way. Machine learning. Quite exciting that a company is so bold that they're going to break their own product from the inside. Testers must be having a...
Can I just chip in on that point? Because if we're talking about tools, then that tool, which is Chaos Monkey, is anyone familiar with Chaos Monkey? Does anyone use Chaos Monkey? Because of all the tools, that impresses me the most. I love the idea of it. To me, Chaos Monkey is like Kato from the Pink Panther. So Clouseau comes back from a hard day in the office, and Kato in his black pyjamas just jumps out and attacks him at the moment's notice. And that's brilliant. I think they missed a trick with the name. But Chaos Monkey is brilliant, and this is part of it's testing, it's feedback. And so they've built their infrastructure, and they built this tool, Chaos Monkey, that just randomly turns off stuff. Web server, I think that can go. Load balancer, we'll get rid of that one. Database server, go on. It just turns it on. But power to Netflix elbow. What the tool impresses me, what impresses me the most is that Netflix then left it running. So they didn't write this tool that then ran a test maybe for 6 hours, for 10 hours. Can we get away with that? Phew, 5 o'clock, switch it off for heaven's sake. They just left it running. And there are a lot of organisations that just leave that running. Because the thing it's trying to test, trying to establish is whether that infrastructure can keep going. Can they cope with the failure? And don't say, yes, we cope with the failure when we ran that test on the 15th of November 2014, so we're good. This just runs 24/7. And so if they do detect a problem, then they swore that they fix it. But they have the courage to leave that running. Because if they turn it off, what they're basically saying is, we're not confident about our code.
Some organisations, they have referred to the DevOps days, which are like war games, effectively, when you do try to do that. But not always trying to do all that first step, having something like that running is not necessarily the right way of doing it. So when we do DevOps academies, we do training courses, Kat loves doing, she is an actual Chaos Monkey, she loves actually doing the the DevOps day, and she will do things which will switch stuff off, break it, and actually the response time of how you get it back out, and you solve it, and you improve it to make sure it doesn't happen. That's the sort of thing you try to teach people and get them to think about and work in that collaborative way. So, what DevOps is evolving to is really, as we said, the testing is most important. So if you're a tester today, you're king of the world, after the devs. We're the real kings of the world. Devs and Xbox guys are important as well. So the PM, so it's everyone, because it's all about standing there, working together. If you haven't looked at behavior-driven development yet, have a research around it, because especially if you're a PM or a BA, you will have skills that you can adapt in there, and you can work, and you can engage in that testing strategy. You can ensure that you're meeting the requirements more effectively. But testing is everywhere. Amazon get this right, Netflix get this right, because testing is a continual function. Not something that happens at the end of the chain, not light touch integration testing. Every line of code is going to be twisted and turned to get there. And that's the infrastructure code, it's my code for the product, it's the UX analysis, the metrics we're building in, because with that we can improve and we can loop continually. Good one for the testers. Code that has been written but not tested is a state of neither working nor failing until it is observed. 2 days ago, Schrodinger's code tickled me. If it's not tested, you don't know it's stable, you don't know it's going to work. And that's really what I want to sort of leave us on, that really we want to create test-driven frameworks and harnesses, automated testing. Engineers are focused on testing, security, change, safety ops. Okay? Configuration management tools will allow the rapid creation of any environment. Dashboards. Dashboards are fantastic. On my DevOps playlist, I've got paradise about the dashboard one, because if the dashboard is saying it's good, it's great. Don't hide them, keep them up there. Gov.uk, I think they're amazing for doing this, because their dashboards of all their services and what's happened, their uptime and all the rest of it. You've got Gov.uk, social dashboards, they're there. Which is great, it's taxpayer money. They're showing you what they're doing, they're showing the cost of each transaction, they're showing the uptime, they're showing the load. And they have very deep dashboards within the organisation that make it easier to work. Metrics, and the right metrics, and involving metrics allow us to create better systems. Better, faster, stronger. That's what I started this off with. We are going to make better product because we can learn faster, we can improve faster. We don't want to be in those scenarios where you hear, I live in Edinburgh, there's a new system they're building up there for the Scottish NHS, and I listened to it, it's now 2 times over the original budget and 2 years behind schedule. 2 years, man. That's incredible, because of the technology, the lifetime, everything will have moved on at that point faster, because if we move in sprints and we're getting product out and being used, then we're getting good feedback, we're getting good knowledge, metrics, and that makes our code stronger. So, Steve Austin would like to know, and we're going to now be running in fast forward motion or slow motion at the end of this. Do we have any questions?